In the winter of 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out into the Ural Mountains of Russia. None of them would ever return. When investigators finally discovered the campsite, they found something that immediately shattered every logical explanation. The tent had not been destroyed by an avalanche or a storm. It had been deliberately cut open from the inside, as if the people inside were desperate to escape. The hikers had fled into the freezing darkness without shoes, without coats, and without any protection, running straight into temperatures that dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. What terrified them enough to abandon everything they needed to survive? And why did some of their bodies show injuries similar to a car crash without a single bruise on the skin? This is the unresolved horror of the Dyatlov Pass. In January of 1959, a group of young students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute organized a demanding ski expedition across the northern Ural Mountains. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, an experienced hiker and engineer who had successfully completed several difficult expeditions before. Every member of the group was physically strong, well-trained, and familiar with extreme winter survival. This was not a reckless adventure, but a carefully planned journey by people who knew exactly what they were doing. Their goal was to reach Otorten Mountain, a remote peak in the region. In the local Mansi language, the name Otorten roughly translates to "don't go there," a warning that would later feel disturbingly appropriate. The group was expected to return by February 12th and send a telegram confirming their safe arrival. When the deadline passed with no message, concern slowly turned into alarm. By February 26th, rescue teams were sent to search the area. What they found on the slopes of Kolatsiakl, known as Dead Mountain, raised immediate questions. The group's tent was discovered partially collapsed on the hillside. Inside, everything appeared normal. Food was still laid out. Boots, coats, and personal belongings had been left behind. Cameras and journals were still there, frozen in time. Nothing suggested that the hikers had planned to leave. The tent itself told a different story. Large slashes had been cut through the fabric, and investigators quickly realized that the cuts had been made from the inside. The hikers had not tried to get into the tent. They had tried to get out as quickly as possible. Whatever happened that night had forced 9 experienced survivors to tear their way out and flee into a deadly storm without even stopping to put on shoes. The first bodies were found nearly a mile away, near the edge of a forest, by a large cedar tree. 2 of the hikers were discovered wearing only underwear, their bodies frozen next to the remains of a small fire. Their hands showed signs of severe burns, as if they had been desperately trying to keep the fire alive with their bare hands. The injuries suggested panic, confusion, and a rapid loss of control. Not far from them, rescuers found 3 more bodies scattered along the slope, including Igor Dyatlov himself. Their position suggested that they had been attempting to crawl or walk back toward the tent before collapsing in the snow. Exposure to the cold had killed them, but the circumstances made little sense. These were people trained to survive exactly this kind of environment. The most disturbing discoveries came 2 months later. In a ravine buried beneath 4 meters of snow, the final 4 hikers were found. Unlike the others, their injuries could not be explained by hypothermia alone. One had a fractured skull. 2 others had massive chest injuries. Medical examiners stated that the force required to cause such damage was comparable to a high-speed car crash. Yet there were no external wounds, no broken skin, no visible bruises. It was as if their bodies had been crushed by an immense pressure from the inside. One of the hikers, Lyudmila Dubanina, was missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her facial tissue. The damage appeared severe and deliberate, yet there were no clear signs of an animal attack. To make matters even stranger, traces of radiation were detected on some of the hikers' clothing, an unexplained detail that only deepened the mystery. Soviet investigators moved quickly to close the case. Their official conclusion stated that the hikers had died due to a compelling natural force that they were unable to overcome. No further explanation was provided. Many documents related to the investigation were sealed, and the site was restricted for years. Over time, theories began to emerge. Some suggested a secret military weapons test had gone wrong. Others believed the hikers were affected by infrasound, generated by the mountain winds, triggering uncontrollable panic. Some pointed to avalanches, while others argued that no avalanche evidence matched the scene. And for many, the injuries, the radiation, and the strange behavior pointed to something far more unsettling. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in history. The mountain still stands silent, guarding whatever truth caused 9 skilled hikers to flee into certain death on a freezing night. If stories like this make you question how much of history remains hidden beneath the snow, consider subscribing to the short chapter, where we explore the cold truths that were never meant to be uncovered.